I am Andrew
That's what I love.
Mr. Mallard. Join me as always, Mr. Chief of Morale himself, Bud Copeland. Bud, how are you this evening before we get into
So the point being is good golfers are a fucking dime a dozen. And we saw it in full swing that the line of demarcation between...
Are you ready, Bud? Are you ready for the players? Are you ready to make money? Are you ready to try to beat me?
I didn't do my homework this week.
Welcome in another episode of Divots and Pivots. It's Tuesday night here on the Fantasy Sports Corporation Network, and it's playoff time as we wrap up the Wyndham Championship last week. Move forward without Justin Thomas. We'll get to that more in a little bit. And then we get into the playoffs. It's going to be fun. It's going to be hectic. Smaller fields. Get ready. But before we get into all that, as always, Bud Copeland joining me on the other end of the mic. How are you tonight, Bud?
Magnificent. It's another major week. We got the U.S. Women's Amateur going on at the Bel Air Country Club. Saw a weird story earlier that I guess there's tunnels that you have to that take people from one side to the next and like cut through valleys and whatnot. And those tunnels are the reason that golf carts are the width that they are. I have not I'm going to send the I-team on that to follow up and find out what they mean. I just saw that quick headline literally as you were going live, and I was just kind of scrolling on the stuff that I've missed. So Sunday, they'll crown another U.S. Women's Amateur champion. And then also on Sunday, we're going to crown another major over in the UK is the Women's Open, the AIG Women's Open. I think this is like its 20th year with major designation status. So it's going to be an exciting weekend of golf worldwide. But like we know, our focus and the focus of many in the golf universe will be on Memphis, TPC Southwind, and the FedEx St. Jude first round of the playoffs. It's boggling to me. This just hit me before too. It was a year ago. Will Zalatoris won. He won this event. He was leading the whole freaking thing going into round 2 of the playoffs when his back just tweaked. And then obviously he had to have that surgery earlier this year. So it'll be interesting to see if and when he gets back. I got a feeling he'll be back maybe for the Century if they let him in. If not, maybe he waits for the West Coast swing. But a lot of good stuff going on. We will get into the playoffs and everything, but as you alluded to earlier, JT by a hair,
literally
in and out. I mean, he eagled 15, and I was at the Red Sox game watching it on my phone. He eagles 15 or 16, whatever it was, and then he goes, and then he bogeyed the next hole, and all I thought was like, no, that's just too. I mean, if he pars he's in, yeah. But there was a lot of chatter. So here's my first question to you, and then we'll get back into the JT, the playoff, Ryder Cup, all those implications. But coming out of the weekend, what was a bigger deal to you? JT missing the cut, or not missing the cut, missing the playoffs, or Big D Bryson DeChambeau shooting 58 to win his live event?
JT missing the playoffs, 100%. I once again completely forgot that Liv was having an event this week until I saw that Bryson shot a 58. So, yeah, it was easy, far and away.
He was saying how when he was a kid, he would play from the front tees and just try to score. And I think that's a great lesson for anybody trying to get better at the game. If you really don't give a rat's ass and you're just out there to have a good time, slam some beers, make a putt, maybe drop a bomb, whatever, then go for it. But if you're actually working on your game and you're actively trying to get a little bit better, that is a wonderful drill. We used to do that too. We'd play from the red tees or the front tees, and we would do one of two things. We would say you can't bring anything more than a 7-iron and then just really challenge yourself, or we would just flat out play from the front tees to do what he's talking about, learn how to score, be comfortable with that many birdie looks, and then all of a sudden be comfortable with the thought that I'm, a mind-blowing number under par. 58's a big deal. Somebody chirped me online earlier when I brought it up the other day that the Greenbrier White course where they're playing, which used to be a TPC designation, I can't imagine it still holds that once the tour broke its agreement with having a tournament there, and now they're signed with Liv. I just don't see a TPC course hosting a Liv event. But somebody pointed out there's been several 60s and 61s and 62s, maybe even a 59 here and there over the years at that course. And my only response to that is, so 58's 58. I mean, it's Bryson DeChambeau. if this was somebody who didn't have bona fides on the PGA Tour, major champion, been there, done that, then I would say like, maybe he doesn't know what real pressure is. But I think Bryson is beyond pressure. Those guys don't think, those guys on live, they really don't think about where they are. They're just trying to make, play as well as they can. So I think the 58's a big deal. I don't think it's a bigger deal than JT missing the cut because of those other implications, but it brings up another great question relating those two. Do you give Bryson DeChambeau a look for the Ryder Cup, or did JT do enough to make it, or are they both going to miss it?
I think they're both going to miss it. For me, I think it's a tough look, even as a captain's pick, to pick a guy who didn't make the playoffs. And look, I know JT missed it by a hair. I know JT is JT, and he's got a ton of match play experience, and I get all that. But it doesn't change the fact that he's just not been playing well, and he hasn't been playing consistent. I just said from a complete team strategy standpoint, I wouldn't want that question mark on the team.
So
he's just not there right now.
So for folks who may not be familiar with how this works, after not this week, but after next week, those that are in the top 6 will be locked in, and a couple of them are already made it. They made announcements like, hey, Wyndham Clark, Scotty Scheffler, come on down, wear the red, white, and blue, because they've got enough points. There's no way in hell. They could pretty much do that with a couple other guys, but you've got Brooks Koepka, who's idle. And, people like Xander, Patrick Cantlay, Max Homa, and I think actually these might be outdated, but those guys can still go and earn some points. And Brooksy might be on the outside looking in. And then I think you absolutely have to take Brooks Koepka because he did what he did and got to that point.
I'd take him over JT if it was down to those two right now.
Yeah, but it won't be down to those two. Brooks.
I know, but I'm just saying that hypothetical like that. I would have, because I'm sure people will listen to the show and just think I'm so anti-live that's why I wouldn't take Brooks Koepka. No, I would take Brooks Koepka over JT.
Oh, 100%. I took Major Brooksy the first few times. So Scotty Scheffler, Wyndham Clark, Brian Harman, they're going to be in. Brooks is sitting there at 4th, Xander's at 5th, Patrick Cantlay's at 6th. And then you got Max Homa, Cam Young, Jordan Spieth, Keegan Bradley, all guys who are in good form. Max finally found it after the Open Championship. Cam Young never lost it. Jordan Spieth has been on the rise ever since he found it again. And Keegan Bradley's having a little resurgence, and he's won a couple times. So you almost have to think those guys are going to be in as well. And then it's like, do you take Ricky? I don't know.
See, I think he's
gonna get picked, but I agree with you that it's gonna be a bad look. But I don't think they give a shit about look. I think it's gonna be much more of like he did find something and he's been there, done that, and him and Jordan paired up are just as long as they're both firing, I think he's gonna get picked. But at the same time, I agree with you. I don't think it's a good look. But then again, what do we know?
See, out of all those guys you listed, the only one that really screams having the makeup for the style of golf that the Ryder Cup would be Cam Young out of that group. So I think Cam Young for sure, but I don't think Keegan's necessarily lines up great for Ryder Cup play. And Max Homa's turned it on, but I'm not sure he lines up great either. Have we seen him in Ryder Cup or President's Cup or any type of team style event before? I can't really
I want to say he was in the red, white, and blue last year for the President's Cup, but let me ask you this. The next guys, so we're talking about, Max Homa at 7, Cam Young at 8, Jordan Spieth at 9, and Keegan Bradley at 10. All right, just take them. So then you got 2 more spots. Colin Morikawa and Sam Burns are the next 2 names. And then right after that, you got Ricky Fowler and Justin Thomas. So we're not talking about just because he missed the playoffs. I mean, this is also it is a biennial, chase for these points in this position. So he was kind of there, and even as shitty as even with missing the playoffs, he is in a respectable position to be picked. And I think that's lost on people because you're right. He missed the playoffs. Sure. So how could you take him? But recent form seems to be trending in that direction. He sure as shit knows what he's doing when he's in international play. And personal relationships do matter in team golf. We saw that with even Matty Wolff and not liking Brooks, and they had a little falling out. And then I guess Matty found it. He shot some low scores, but it was overshadowed by Brooksy. So Justin Thomas, that's what I'm saying there. Sitting there at 14th, but you do have like, Ricky and Denny McCarthy who are around him who are going to go ahead and, get some points and maybe pull ahead, maybe not. So I think it's just hard conversations, because I think it would be easy to shun Sam Burns because I'm just being a dickhead and going sure on just being like, hey, who's the name, who's the brand, Colin Morikawa or Sam Burns, and then you got to flip a coin between Ricky and JT, and Ricky's got better form, but JT's got better pedigree.
So I'm glad you brought up personal relationships, though, because that is one of the reasons why I would put JT in it, because if you are going to go the route where you end up having Spieth and Fowler in there too, then that's a situation where I would bring JT as the last guy in and kind of, because those three together, they are very comfortable together. They play together all the time. They hang out together off the course. Like I could see that working and maybe bringing a little extra oomph to some of their play, especially someone like J2 who has struggled and been up and down recently.
It's going to be fun. That's for damn sure. I still can't believe Wyndham Clark's going to be $8,500 this week after what he's been putting out there and the positions that he's put himself in. It's not to try to skip ahead there, but no love for Bryson D at all. And I think he's another one. He's another guy it's almost like Draymond Green. If Draymond Green got left off of the USA squad one year, it was almost understandable that sure, you're probably good enough to play in this competition. Yeah. You know the dynamic, and unless you're going to qualify automatically, that personality is not going to mesh. And I don't know their ins and outs, but I just don't see him as part of the crew. I do think that he's always just trying to grind away and find whatever next hack he can make. Can I gain weight, lose weight, gain yardage? What kind of tweak am I going to do to my clubs? He's always trying to invent clubs with Cobra and shit like that. So I think he's more of a fascination than a necessity. So there's your Ryder Cup teaser. We got a couple weeks left before we find out who's going to be there.
I know I was on a football show a couple weeks ago, and they introduced me. Co-host of the Divots and Pivots show. Golf's ending now, and I was like, whoa, hold yourself. This is about to be the most exciting part of the season for golf, because we get major level of golf tournament, maybe not major level, but like that type of atmosphere, playoff golf, plus the Ryder Cup mixed in there. Like, this is about to be like a marathon of a month to 5-6 weeks here for us. And I love it.
Yeah, they did right. And then I can't remember what's about to happen this fall, but because the next year doesn't start really officially, the points, everybody starts at 0 come, I want to say it's January 1. They just rolled out the 2024 schedule. I think it's hilarious to me that we've gone from elevated events to designated events, and then next year they're going to be called signature events. Bang up job by the marketing team there down in Ponte Vedra Beach. Their social media team's wonderful, but like, what in the hell? So signature events. And here's a question for you around that. I don't know if you caught much of this. So schedule came out and they did their thing where they're just trying to pepper in a signature event and a major, like pretty much every month throughout the entire season, except for July. No signature events in July. And I think it's because you got a major in there, and then we're going to be rolling into the Olympics. Waste management's not going to be a designated event like it was this year. And instead the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am will take that spot. And it's going to be 8 signature events. 3 of them are still going to have a cut. So the Tigers tournament, Jack's tournament, and Arnie's tournament, they're starting with 70. All of these signature events are going to be 70, 75 players, whatever that limited field is. But those 2 will do a 36-hole cut, or those 3 will do a 36-hole cut down to 50 and top, and if you're within 10 strokes. So, I mean, if everybody's just playing out of their mind, they're not going to cut heads off just to cut heads off. So if you're within 10 strokes of the lead, or you're in the top, or you're tied for the top 50, you're going to make the weekend. Those guys are playing for live type money, $4 million to the winner. The other 5 signature events will just do 70 players, no cut, 18%, cut to the winner. So it's going to be like 3.7 like normal.
Yeah.
But should they feel slighted by no longer being a designated event, or is the waste management? They don't need that extra shine.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna feel slighted by it. I think they know what they are and they own it, and honestly, I don't think they need to make the waste management a signature event. Like the guys show up for that anyways, and so to me, the purpose of a signature event, or at least the way I understood of what they were trying to do, is to try to bring some light to some tournaments that they'd like to have some other guys at to bring up the level of competition a little bit. And I'm looking at this February schedule here, and I mean, just from a course standpoint, the Pebble Beach Pro-Am obviously at Pebble Beach, and then Scottsdale, and then Riviera. Like, those are just monster courses, right? 3 weeks in a row. We're at classic, like, just legendary courses, and I love that. Why not go back to? Why not make the Classic and the Palms the designated event? Like, that feels more like an opportunity there for me than the Pro-Am. Like, the Pro-Am has a different feel to it. Like, I don't really get making the Pro-Am a signature event.
Pebble
Like, that
Beach in
doesn't make
prime
sense to
time.
me.
That's all they want to do
I
is.
know it's Pebble Beach, and I get that, but that just, I don't know. That doesn't seem like it's going to get the most out of at least the competition factor of it.
It was about designated events is about trying to get, like you said, some of the bigger names to take these tournaments a little more seriously. Like in past years, you would never, ever, ever, ever see these guys go from the Masters to the RBC Heritage. And we saw John Rahm show up this week, this year after winning the Masters, and you see all those big names because it was the money, it was the designated event. I think you're right. The waste management, the people who want to be there are going to be there. It's good for your brand. If you are Ricky Fowler, yeah, sure. You want to make sure you're rested up for, Riviera and Pebble Beach. Those courses are no joke, but you're also expected to be out there at the waste management, putting on the basketball jerseys and, yucking it up and getting the crowd into it. So I think you're right. It's just that they don't necessarily need it. But where I do disagree is I don't know if it was necessarily to kind of, otherwise we'd have the John Deere, like taking, they might, taking turns as a signature event. I don't think they were trying to.
Well, I don't mean going all the way down to that level. I just like those borderline
shots
stuff.
fired on the John Deere. What do you mean that level? It was to bring back some of the polish and prestige, because the RBC Heritage was kind of a big deal when I was growing up. I mean, it was the week after the Masters, but it just the location and the history behind the course and the tournament, and the fact that like Davis Love and Davis Love III was always associated with it stuck out to me. But what I love about this is we're going to get some Olympic golf. I don't know why, but I'm a sucker for it. I don't understand the qualifying process. I don't care. I think we've talked about it before, and I'm sure we'll get into it next year. But I'm interested to see if anything actually happens with Live now that they've rolled out. Okay, so this was the next thing to drop. So 2024, here's our schedule. Live, I don't know if they've put out their 24 schedule yet, but I read an article earlier today that is saying Live's not going to go anywhere, and now we know where the PGA Tour and the approach they're taking. But the thesis was that the deal is going to fall through. That that these are just strange bedfellows, and it's not going to work out. Like, you can't have one person in charge and all I keep thinking about is I think it's going to happen, and I think everybody already showed their hands. The PGA Tour already admitted, like, listen, if we don't play ball, we're going to get smothered in court. So we're going to do the damn thing. And I think that's what, right before we got on, you're asking if I saw that somebody else, so some high-ranking executive at the PGA Tour resigned again this week, and they made a point to say it had nothing to do with the upcoming merger. And I'm thinking to myself, well, does anybody really care at this point? I know it sounds terrible and awful, and it's going to be something that's never going to go away, but I'm more excited, like, again, getting Pebble Beach in prime time and then sandwiching in the Waste Management Super Bowl. That February, the month of February, is going to feel like a major for golf fans and sports fans in general, but mostly the golf dorks, because we do have those three major venues that you brought up, with a Super Bowl sandwiched in there. And then we get into major FedEx Cup playoffs. Ironically enough, your boy Lucas Glover this last week.
Yeah,
Did you hear his comments?
I texted. I didn't hear his comment, but I know I texted you saying, of course, the week I say that I like Lucas Glover, but I don't have confidence to play him, and he goes out and wins. Whatever. Anyways, no. What was his comment though?
He was chirping because he was outside of it, and this, I'm pretty sure this got him into the playoffs, this win. But he was just saying, it's crazy they cut it down to 70 from 125. How are you going to be in the top 125 and have an exemption next year, have your tour card, but you're not eligible for the playoffs? And all I could think to myself was, welcome to other sports. Like, not everybody gets a seat at the playoff table, and this is kind of how it works here. So I didn't think too much of that. But I did smile greatly when I saw his family's reaction, and I thought, good for you. You go out there and you say your words, but then you back it up by proving that you belong in there anyway. So Lucas Glover, tip of the cap to you. Good Clemson guy.
I'm looking up real fast because you mentioned the Super Bowl. And what is the date of the Super Bowl this in 2024 this year? I do find that I didn't even think about that, but it is a very interesting kind of thing.
It's prime real estate, because remember they've done it. I think I don't know if this was the second year or the first year, where they start on Wednesday to finish on Saturday, so they're not even messing around with the Super Bowl. They did that with
but
the
the
farmers.
Super Bowl, it doesn't look like they're doing that this year with the Waste Management, because Waste Management's listed from the 8th to the 11th, and I believe the Super Bowl is on the 11th this year. That's
Waste
Sunday.
Management likes having that putt drop and then kickoff right around the same time. They'll play an earlier final round just to get that those eyeballs that you and your buddies will be sitting there watching for 10 days straight pregame coverage and analysis and breaking down and nerding out.
No, I don't mind that being the Sunday. I was just curious how they were gonna.
The casual football fan like myself, coupled with a golf nerd, it's like pregame is the Waste Management, and then you go right into the Super Bowl for the commercials and to see if the over under hits.
See, meanwhile, I usually have about 3 shows on Super Bowl Sunday that I got to do, so I'll be watching the Waste Management kind of out of the corner of my eye, unfortunately.
Another minute about fantasy football. So tell me this again. What's going on at this expo? Where are you going to be? What do you hope to get out of it? I know we're huge in Canton, so there's probably going to be a big following there, screaming for Divots and Pivots gear. But what is this again?
Yeah, it's the Fantasy Football Expo. So it happens every year out at Canton at the Hall of Fame. Analysts, writers, wannabe sports people like myself all show up and have some fun together, meet each other, network. There's but like I guess you call them seminars or like breakout talks, keynote speakers on different topics, and it's just a big thing.
It's a conference.
It's a conference, and culminates all on Sunday with we all have our booth set up, and anybody, the public's welcome to come in and chit chat and whatever, and it's just a way to get ourselves out there more. It's gonna be a ton of fun. I'm playing in a cornhole tournament Friday night. The Fantasy Sports Corporation Network, we have a flag football team we'll be playing on Saturday, so that's gonna be fun. And I'm gonna die out there Saturday.
You're gonna die?
Yeah, I don't know when last time I've done anything athletic outside of golf, so I might have to bring my inhaler.
You're not putting cornhole in the athletic category,
No,
right?
no, I mean the flag football tournament on Saturday.
Oh shit, I missed that part. I was sitting over here looking at the FedEx Cup Playoff Wikipedia page. Flag football, dude, ACLs. Yeah. That's what I'd be worried about.
I'm done for. I'm gonna be done for on Saturday.
Stretch. All I gotta say is stretch. All right, before we get into the FedEx Cup playoffs and the St. Jude Championship, which is now the FedEx St. Jude Championship.
Yes.
Founded as the Westchester Classic in 1967. How about that?
A little tidbit there, as always.
What did you – so the FedEx Cup playoffs, for those of you who don't know, this has only been around for about 15, 16 years. I think 2007 was the first iteration. Tigers won it a handful of times. Rory now has won it 3 times. In basically, we got the top 70. After this week, the top 50 go to the BMW, and then after that, the top 30 go to Eastlake. Shouts to Eastlake, and they start their week staggered scoring, where whoever's leading in the points is 10 under, then 9, 8, 7, 6, kind of 5, and then they start grouping them together, and they're like, you 4 are going to be at 4 under, then 3 at 3 under, and then the last couple guys started even, and away you go. And Eastlake is provided some wonderful backdrops recently, with Tiger coming down in I think it was 2019, 2018, somewhere in there. Justin Rose actually won the FedEx Cup that year, lost in that story. Obviously Rory, with what he did last year, sneaking in there under Scotty Scheffler and taking it away from him. There's I'm not gonna say no love lost. It's not like they hate each other, but those kind of memories do stick with them, and they want to. So, but how do you bet against John Rahm ever right now when he tees it up? So it's gonna be tough to kind of ID a champion, but week to week, hopefully we can find some value in there to just make the cut. Because when you look down this roster, there's no schlubs in there. This thing really does, weed out the players, as we've seen. JT's been playing like shit. He's on the outside looking in. Aaron Rye, my boy and yours, is in the playoffs. So who would have thunk it? But before we go any further, do you have any parting thoughts departing the regular season, heading into the playoffs?
No, the golf playoffs is, I don't think me and you get it, but people outside don't even realize that playoffs exist in golf. They just assume a tournament finishes and the season's done, and they stop playing for a couple months. And this is just such a to have a field of only 70 guys, I know this is going to be like, well, why don't you watch Live then? But to have a field to have a field of only 70 guys fighting for only a certain amount of spots to move on to the next week, like that's cutthroat. That every single guy in the course, no matter how far out of it from they are from the top, still has a chance to make a move and play for something. So that's what's big about the playoffs for me. I love it, especially once you hit like you said, the staggered scoring. It adds that whole wrinkle into it to keep people engaged and golfers engaged. So the playoffs of golf, I think, is set up perfectly. I think they took them some years to figure it out. They changed it up with the tournaments, with the locations, but I feel like they've kind of hit their stride now the past few years with it. So I'm all about this. I'm ready. This is going to be a great week. Playoff start, fantasy football expo, Patriots first preseason game Thursday. This week is fantastic for sports, or at least for me.
Fun fact: Brian Harmon made 2 holes in 1 in the same round in 2015 at this tournament. So we got that kind of magic going for us. All right, let's take our break for Underdog and say hi to Gingerbread.
Hell yes.
Fantasy Sports Corp and Underdog Fantasy have teamed up to start your fantasy season off in the win column with Best Ball. What is Best Ball? It's quite simply the easiest way to win. No team management, no trades, no waivers. It's their biggest contest ever and it has only gotten bigger. You simply have to sit and win. You don't even have to set your lineup. Always get your best score every week. Just enter a contest, draft your team, and Underdog will do the rest. What could make this even better? How about free money, up to $100 using our exclusive promo code? Go online now and use the promo code DIVPIV to double your deposit up to $100. You tell them Gingerbread sent you. Good girl.
All right, let's get into this because as we've alluded to, this is a bit different this week. It's a much smaller field. And so ownership doesn't really play as much of a factor here. Or if you're going to pay attention to ownership, you need to adjust your kind of your perspective of it because now guys are like 14, 15, 16% ownership. That's much more of an average ownership compared to a regular season event where those guys in like those 3 percentages there, that's more like if you were compared to a regular season around like 10, 11, 12, I'd say. So ownerships, you can expect them all to look higher. So don't let that scare you off, guys. You just have to change the way you look at it. Remember, only 70 guys, the math changes.
A little bit about our host course here. We are at TPC Southwind in Memphis, 7,200 yards, par 70. And it's that Georgia, which I love saying. It's like Zoysia, that Georgia grass in the fairways, which if you've never seen this, the ball sits up almost like it's on a little mini tee, no matter where it sits, as long as it's not in a divot. However, the course is incredibly narrow. So you got to factor that in there. And literally half of the holes are 450 yards or longer. And the 2 par 5s are the easiest holes on the course. So really what you're talking about is 9 really long, hard par 4s with narrow fairways. And then, 9, ho-hum kind of holes with pretty respectably short or, accessible par 3s. So that's why my key 3 this week, I'm really leaning into ball striking, taking off the tee and approach, into account. I'm taking strokes gained putting because it's the playoffs, treating it like a major every week. That separates the boys from the men. And then obviously, not obviously, this isn't something where I normally go. I went strokes gained, par 4s, par 4 efficiency, 450 to 500, because again,
there you go. Welcome to the club.
You got half the holes that are going to be under this model. So I'm sticking to 3 because unlike you, I can count. But if I was going to add something else in there, I probably would maybe put fairways gained and just seeing who out there is having that tee ball work for them instead of just kind of putting them in position and not converting.
Yeah, we got very similar. I'm once again kind of doubling up with the approach and ball striking. So I'm having both strokes gained, ball strike, and strokes gained approach in here, along with strokes gained putting. We agree on the par 4, 450 to 500. The only difference really we have is that I'm also throwing in my usual proximity for approach shots, and I have the 150 to 175 range. Because as you said, the majority of this course are these very equal distance par 4s. So when you take to account those par 4 distances, that distance of approach shots are going to be somewhere around there most of the time. And you nailed it as well. Those par 3s, they're really not that difficult on this course this week. They don't really come into play. I believe 3 out of the 4 of them are under 200 yards. And they all rank, I believe, middle of the pack as far as hole difficulty. So it's really about these power fours this week. You crushed it.
Nailed it.
So where does that leave? What? Not to give, you don't have to give specifics now, but what does your kind of top 10 look like? Do you have a nice kind of spread of salaries and values here, or are you pretty chalky in your top 10?
Actually, I've got some 8, 9, 10, and 11 in there in that top 10. I mean, it is a little chalky because, again, that's going to be the game this week. You're not really trying to play gotcha. These guys, if they're up there for a reason. These odds usually aren't too far off, so don't try to outsmart yourself. Trust the numbers. But I do like the balance just because there's enough in the 9 and 8K range that makes me feel good. I'm not going to do what I did last week and get suckered into some stupid lineup challenge where we just played our top 6, because I had Russell Henley sitting there at 7, and I think because my brain just checked out, I didn't look closely at it. But once again, you didn't play Lucas Glover either, so all's well that ends well. We are still pretty close heading into the playoffs. So I do like my model. I do trust it. It's like John Rahm sitting there at 4th. Well, no shit. Rory McIlroy at 6th. Well, yeah, of course. Scotty's at 9. I mean, these guys are going to be in your top 10, but for me, that's not where I'm going to put some of my focus, because it is a strong field. So you can sprinkle it down the lineup a little bit, and it wouldn't, again, we got Brian Harmon sitting down there in the 8K range. He just won a major. Why isn't his value a little higher? Well, maybe they know something we don't know. Or it could be the fact that he's pretty short off the tee. And so these are going to take some to put yourself in a position to actually attack certain pins. You're going to have to hit 350, 360 yard or even 330 yard bombs and hope for a little bit of a rollout to get to a mid iron or wedge. But I wouldn't go too far down. You start looking down there in that 6K range, and some of these names just don't inspire too much confidence, except for maybe Cam Young, but that's neither here nor there. And that's an 8. That's not a 6. Okay, good. My eyes.
I was going to say, I don't think he's in the 6K range, but you're not wrong. The 6K range is not somewhere I'm going to be. There's 2 guys that I might consider, and one of them is just outside the 7K range, so it's not even it's nothing crazy. I'm not going to the 6K range. You nailed it, but there is still some value in that 7K range for me. But when you have guys like Matthew Fitzpatrick down around 8,600, Hideki's in the mid 8s as well. Cameron Young low 8s, Sam Burns low 8. I mean, Sungjae Im's 8,000 exactly. So yeah, there's value to be had kind of all the way down this board as far as salary. So mix it up a little bit. But let's get into some specifics now. Let's give some names. And like I said, we're going to pretty much ignore ownership this week, except for maybe 1 or 2 situations where we're looking at like above 20%. That might be something there. If you're playing GPP, I will say this: if you're playing GPP, still pay attention a little bit. Don't have like all 20% guys, because you're just shooting yourself in the foot. But also, if you're playing GPP this week, be prepared to be frustrated, because you're going to be splitting with multiple thousands of people when there's only 70 guys in the field. You're going to be looking at where you're going to drop, hundreds, thousands of positions just because of one guy. You're going to be all over the place. I suggest don't even look at your results until Sunday, or you're going to give yourself a heart attack. You're going to be jumping all around. Ignore it. And this is a more fun week for cash games.
Says the guy's going to be texting. You're going to be texting me Thursday at like 10:45 in the morning. Check it out.
I'm sticking to cash games this week. I really am.
All right, so park it, reverse it, roll it back for folks. You're just sitting here going back and forth. GPP cash games.
Yes.
What are each one of those for the lay person listening?
Yeah, so GPPs are your big tournaments on DraftKings or FanDuel or whatever you're playing. GPP stands for Guaranteed Prize Pool. So that's where you're going to have like your 50, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 or more entries that you're going against, where you can have 20 or like 150 different entries for yourself if you want. It's the one where you have a chance to win $1 million, basically. So those are GPPs.
The Mill Maker.
Yeah, your cash games have a smaller winning prize coming out of them, but they have a better chance of winning. So like your double ups, for instance, typically roughly 50% of the entries will double up their money, but you're not going to be, you're turning $1 to $2, $2 into $4. Everyone gets the same prize. Or a head to head, you're just playing 1-on-1 against someone for you both put in 10, winning gets 20,
like
and
you
that's
and
it.
I.
Like
Yeah.
it's just more straightforward. But if you're really trying to hit it home and win the million, change your life, those are the GPPs.
So which ones are you playing this week?
Cash, not the GPPs.
Cash. Going straight cash, homie. All right. So we talked, you mentioned how you can't be too dissecting with the leverage, but as you were rambling on, I'm just kidding. As you were explaining what I asked you to explain very succinctly and nicely, I was looking at this 10K and above range because when you got Scotty and Rory, and you look at the runs that they've been on. So here's Scotty's last few tournaments: 23rd at the Open, 3rd at the Scottish Open, 4th at Travelers, 3rd at US Open, 3rd at Memorial, 3rd at Charles Schwab, 2nd at the PGA, 5th at the Byron Nelson, 11th at the Heritage, 10th at the Masters, and then he won the Players back in March. Why does it? But it feels like he's struggling, and I think it's because he's hitting the ball so damn well, and he's on the cusp. But I don't want to pay that much money because he is projected to be 18, 19, 20% owned. I'm a little shocked that Rory is in the mid-teens. And at 11.5, that still is a lot of money to be putting out, and that forces you down into that 6, 7K range. Maybe if you don't want to go down there, more, a little too deep into the well. But if you had to pull the trigger on somebody in that 10K and above range, I think I would give the nod to Rory over John Rahm, and because John hasn't been John. Really, Victor Hovland hasn't closed at all. And if you just put Rory and Xander next to each other, I'm going to take Rory 10 times out of 10. So solely based on form. And I'm thinking in terms of like my other league where leverage doesn't mean shit. You just got really 4 chances to pick the winner. I might be giving some Rory love this week.
No, I 100% agree. And yeah, how dare Scotty Scheffler finish T23 at the Open? I mean, that's a
fucking joke. Bailing it in.
He must be going down the hole now. So how dare he stay away? No, I'm kidding. Obviously, Scotty Scheffler's been on one hell of a run all the way since last year. But if we want to get super technical and detailed about it, it's his putter that's been letting him down. So, but that's one thing we've always said. These guys can turn around literally overnight, one round to another. He's still first in ball strike and still first in approach, still top 15 in these par fours at this distance. So, I mean, yeah, Scotty Scheffler, I still expect to do well, but yeah, $12,100 when we're trying to not dip into the 6K range this week. That's the only reason why I'm not going to play him, because I don't want to have to, tighten my wallet that much.
And John Rahm, again, I just don't like the 20% when you consider his volatility recently.
Correct.
I mean, you had single digits for Rory going back, and Scotty. Although we do forget, and I love John Rahm's answer, he did finish runner-up at the Open. He was part of that pack that was 5 or 6 strokes back, whatever it was. And when somebody talked about, like, what would it have taken, this, that, and the other, he's like, the guy started the day 5 strokes ahead. Like, this thing was over. He's like, there was nothing any of us could have done. He's like,
especially once that weather kicked in, they just knew, like, there's no way to
just get in there and try to cash a check. But he missed the cut at the Travelers, but that was back at the end of June. He hasn't been playing a ton of golf. And when he does tee it up, 10th at the US Open, 16th at the Memorial, 50th at the PGA, 2nd in Mexico. He won the Masters, and he was 15th at the RBC after a grueling Masters week. So you can't bet against John Rahm. I just think when you look at those top 3, Scotty, Rory, and John, Rory not getting a lot of that. Rory's been admittedly a little shaky with those wedges, but he still is finishing high up on the leaderboard. And with that win at the Scottish Open, it's kind of, remembering how to win is a big deal. So you can't really go wrong if you have to spend that kind of money with those 3. I mean, I would just my thing would be the leverage play, giving, a couple extra points with Rory.
Yeah, no, I agree. It would be Rory for me there as well. And then just sorry about that. Just under that,
Don't you go dying on me.
10K range. There's only 2 guys in the 10K range: Victor Hovland and Xander, at 10-2 and 10 respectively. And I like them both. They both rank out top 5 in my model. I know we said we're not going to pay attention to ownership really here, but somehow they both are under 15% projected ownership as well, and they both have at least 5 straight tournaments without a missed cut. Yes, I know. I shit on Victor Hovland a few weeks ago saying that he's, potential.
He can't close. No, I was just about to say it. He can't close, and he can't close. Something. Yeah, there's that mental block going on right now that he can't close, and maybe he'll figure it out. But I don't think this is going to be the place he figures it out. And Xander. Yeah. Why does Xander feel like it's sneaky quiet that he's
Xander is top 10 in all 5 of my stats. I'm not sure I've really seen that too much this season, but he's top 10 in all my stats, and
he's gaining 8 strokes on the field over his last 10 events. So I mean, he's definitely in form. Top 10 at the US Open, 17th at the Open, 10th at the Masters, top 20 at the Players. So I mean, Xander would be probably a safe bet to at least make the cut, if not make a run, because once again, these guys click, something happens. But I have much more.
He is a guy I wouldn't be surprised if he won. I would not be surprised to see him win this or even the next event, but I feel like he has a win in him in these playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised.
Down in the 9K range is where you find my heart. And I probably don't even have to tell you. Okay, so let's see. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys in the 9K range. Yep. All of them are in my top 35. One of them is first in my model, and another one is 10th. And those two guys, even given their relative, and it's not even that chalky. I mean, if it's yellow, let it mellow. I can swallow some yellow chalk in the 9K range. But I'm gonna give you one guy.
5 of those guys are in my top 20.
Who is your number one or highest ranked in the 9K range?
The guy that I would be most interested in playing in the 9K range. I'm between two, but I think what I would end up doing here is
we'll talk multiple, but truth gun to your head.
But if I had to just
9K
pick
somewhere.
Yeah, if I had to just pick one of these guys, all things factored in, I think I'm playing Tommy Fleetwood.
Interesting.
I think I'm playing Tommy Fleetwood. I think he's been good enough off the tee right now, and he's been nice and steady with his putter recently that I feel like he's got it. Look, he had a one hiccup at the Travelers where he missed the cut, but other than that, he's got 4 top 10s in his last 5, and at 9,100, like that's. I like what if I'm going to play Xander at 10, like I'm fine saving some money. I would be between him and Patrick Cantlay in this range, and I'm fine saving $700 to drop down to Tommy Fleetwood if I'm going to play Xander at the top of my model.
So it's interesting. Tommy's on my radar, obviously, because like you said, 9,100 and the way he's been playing, and he ranks out in my model. He's 10th in my model, but number 1 is my favorite and yours, Tyrrell Hatton at 9,700, 14% ownership. And it's funny because you could almost, what you just said about Tommy, you could almost say about Tyrrell. And personality wise, they couldn't be much different. I mean, Tyrrell's been on a pretty decent little run, 20th at the Open, but 6th at the Scottish Open, 27th at the US Open, 3rd in Canada, 12th at Memorial, 15th at PGA, 5th, 3rd, 19th. So, I mean, he's been knocking every week. I think it's because of his demeanor and his antics. Sometimes we think that maybe he's playing or performing worse than he actually is.
But I just love watching him. He's
one
of my favorites.
So do I. And I love that Colin Morikawa admitted that from a player standpoint. It's like, it's entertaining as hell. Like you're sitting there watching him do his thing and he's not encroaching on your performance.
So do you think that as a player who's playing with someone like that, like from Colin Morikawa's standpoint, do you think that breaks your own inner tension a little bit?
It's to each his own. I guarantee you put Tiger in that group. Tiger doesn't know you're there. Sure. Quick, Tony Finau famously talked about in the 2019 Masters, that final round. He got to walk with them, and he said that they just said hello at the first tee, and then it was like 5-6 holes in. No, he said it was like 5-6 holes in or something. They were walking off the tee box, and they just happened to be walking like kind of in step. And he just said, how are the kids? And he said that Tiger looked at me and just good, and then he just sped up. And he goes, there was not one more word spoken between the two of us until it was congratulations on the 18th green. So to your question, you put anybody, it just depends on the golfer. For Colin, I think that was kind of a cool insight to Colin Morikawa, that he does pay attention. You hear these guys, how they have to kind of break it in between shots and go look at other things, or, the players that the caddy's going to go. So who do you think? You got the Colts this weekend. They want to talk to him. Yeah. There are some players, and I bet Bryson's in this latter category, where they're just next shot. Just as soon as the ball leaves the club face, they're already thinking, okay, that's left, that's short, that's long, that's on it. And then they watch it, they hit, okay. And now they're probably just always on, which has got to be exhausting. So it just depends on the player. But in that 9K range, Ricky Fowler's 10th for me. Mm-hmm. I want to take some Ricky because I want to believe in the Ricky, and I kind of want to see him in the red, white, and blue. And I do think he needs to get pretty deep in the playoffs, or at least, make a run at one of these tournaments, even though he did win recently. And I know folks were saying, myself included, he's back, he's going to be on the team. As we talked about at the outset, there's some difficult conversations to have ahead. So as long as he doesn't O2 barbecue, I think he's going to make a decent showing, but I'm not going to put any money behind him. And same thing about Colin Morikawa. He's just been too inconsistent this entire season to really entice me with it. Now, if he was about $500 cheaper, I might, because he actually has shown his face in positive formats recently he missed the cut at the Open, but he was second at the Rocket Mortgage and 14th at the US Open, but he has a couple of those missed cuts in between. So he's boom or bust right now. And I just,
he is one of those guys he's one of those guys that is approaching 20% ownership. And I'm looking at the stats I'm using, and I'm wondering, what are people looking at that I'm
ball not, striking. He's still the best there is.
And that's fair, but I don't, maybe me and you look at everything outside the numbers a little bit more than everyone else, because I 100% agree with you that Colin Morikawa just feels still inconsistent to me. It's either top 15 or a miscut with him right now.
Right, and I'm not gonna, and I kind of would rather give somebody else more love. All right, 8K. So we both agree in Tommy in Fairway Jesus. I like me some Tyrrell as well. 91, 97 means I'm gonna have to go down low probably to balance it out a little bit.
Yep.
But especially when you consider the next guy that I might be looking at, and really my top 4 overall. But is there anybody besides Fairway Jesus that you're looking at in that 9K range? I already said I got Tommy and Tyrrell.
Yeah, the only other guy that I say I would mention, no, I already mentioned him. I said Patrick Cantlay. He's the other guy. I was between him and Tommy Fleetwood. I mean, Jordan Spieth is worth a look, but he's also been a bit inconsistent recently. So that's I'm not very confident in that. Apparently nobody else is either, because he's actually below 10% projected this week as well. So if you want to take a dart throw with someone with low ownership in a GPP, I'm fine going Jordan Spieth and just knowing it's risky. But yeah, no, I think we hit the guys that we really like in the 10K range already.
Can we talk about range, all right, real quick on Jordan Spieth. This is going back to, this is this calendar year. So 13th at the Century. Hey, Jordan's back. Missed the cut at the Sony Open. Right. 63rd at Pebble Beach. Okay, he made a cut. 6th in Phoenix. Oh my God, he's back. Missed the cut at Genesis.
Exactly. Yeah.
4th at Arnold Palmer. Top 20 at the Players. 3rd at the Valspar. 4th at the Masters. 2nd at the RBC. Missed cut at the Wells Fargo.
Yep.
And I mean, it's just been his entire year. 5th at the Memorial. Missed the cut at the US Open. Missed the cut at the Scottish Open, 23rd at the Open. So the volatility, that's probably why the ownership is as low as it is.
Oh, 100%.
But I think even that price tag at 93 is apropos for the way he's been playing. All right, 8K range.
Yes.
Who you got, who you like, why do you like him, why do you not?
The 8K range is weird for me because I'm not really looking. I'm going right over Jason Day, a guy I've loved this year. I'm looking right past it. Max Homa, a guy I've loved in recent years, looking right past him. Tony Finau doesn't do it for me. Matthew Fitzpatrick doesn't do it for me. You mentioned him early on. Wyndham Clark I like him at 8,500. He's been playing so well that he feels like you said it before. He feels like a steal at this price. So Wyndham Clark, I'm cool with down here. I also like Brian Harman. He's playing too good. I know his last tournament that he's played in is the one he's won, but I feel like a few weeks have gone by now where he's kind of probably slept off the major champion hangover. So maybe Brian Harman makes a little bit of a push here to at least move on to the next event.
Unfortunately, I think Brian Harman's back to Parkland Golf and the world of the long ball. And that's why when I was talking about how maybe the Open Championship is the last bastion for the short hitters, because the elements play a huge role in a neutralizing factor, and those courses are not as long as the modern day stuff. So as long as you're finding fairways and controlling your ball, that's all you need to do, a la Kevin Kisner. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why.
But even before that, he was finishing top 20, he had T43 at the US Open, but T2 at the Travelers, T9 at Rocket Mortgage, T12 at the Genesis Scottish Open. I mean, I know that's basically another short link style as well, but still, he's been shown he can play on some of the longer courses too.
He missed the cut at the Memorial, PGA Championship, Wells Fargo. The Masters, Valspar, Arnold Palmer, Genesis. What do these courses all have in common? They're beasts. Like you have to actually have that long ball in there to put yourself in position to score. I just don't see him getting it done this week. I can't believe I'm not rooting, betting against the Georgia Bulldog, and you're going to go to bat for the lefty. But then again, you're weird, and I appreciate that about you.
Wyndham Clark definitely ranks a lot higher than Brian Harman in my model. I will say that.
So ring the bell on Wyndham Clark. 17% ownership, but I think that's warranted, and I think that's kind of why so many people do believe in him, because they see what's going on in his trend. So he's 5th in my model. 6th in my model is a guy you blew right past, Jason Day. And I think,
really?
I think he gained 12 strokes on the field at the Open. He found it. And I think that maybe this is where he catches lightning in a bottle and reignites his kind of, hey, I know how to do this too. But somebody else who kind of found it, and he would be more of a leverage play, and you went right past him. But it's the Caucasian Colin Morikawa, Max Homa, another cowboy who not cow, but cowboy, who is known for having a beautiful swing and crisp iron play, the kind of things you need to do to keep it straight and narrow. If he found it overseas, I think it's worth, a look at, but 88's a little pricey, but I think that's why if you're looking for an 8K leverage play, Max Homa. I don't have much confidence in the other guys in there. Tony Finau.
Yeah,
Tony's one of these days going to jump up and bite me in the ass, because he does just seem to click this time of year. Matty Fitzpatrick, Hideki, Brian Harman. I do like Cam Young, but wait a minute, how did I go right past Cam Young? And because he's 63rd in my model, so I'm not going to really give that too much.
65th in mine too.
Yeah. So, all right, there you have it, folks. The 8K range from Boudreaux. If you're feeling a little chalky, Wyndham Clark is your go-to. Jason Day is worth a look. And if you're feeling a little froggy, then maybe become a homosexual.
What?
Homa. Max Homa, a homosexual. Jump on the train. Where have you been this season?
I've just not heard that before, so that really took me off guard.
I'm glad to know you pay attention when I talk.
God damn. You know what? I think you might have actually opened my eyes to Max Homa. I think I hastily looked past him and didn't really pay attention to how well he's been playing. That's all it takes, recently.
And then they turn. And they always turn.
Yeah, so I don't mind the Max Homa call, but yeah, I definitely misheard you. Anyways, let's get into that 7K range, because look, we've named a lot of guys that we really like in our model in that 10, 9, and upper 8K range. So we're gonna have to play some guys down here in the 7K range to find some value. A guy that's still gonna do it for me this week. I've been riding him. I'm gonna ride him again. And I know you always hate when I say his name. Not hate, but you're always surprised when I say his name. I'm going with Emiliano Grillo still at 7,100. I still like him. I still like him. Yes. Yes.
All right. Who else you got in the 7K range?
So I do. Let me see. Siwoo Kim is another guy I like. He's a guy he's one of those guys I'm willing to take a shot on at 7,400. The only thing that's missing for him is his putter. So maybe he can turn that around. Then the other guy that I have ranked somewhat higher in the 7K range, I have him ranked at 19th, and that's Corey Connors. He's one of those longer hitters who can also really handle his irons and his approach game. He plays these par fours better than average, so I like Corey Connors at 7,600. And if you are playing GPPs, projected less than 13% ownership. So Corey Connors could be a nice cash and GPP play. So I like that. He finished T50 second at the Open, T19 at the Scottish Open, and then T9 at the Travelers. So Corey Connors is someone I think I'm definitely going to be working into my model as well. Did you hear that, Corey Connors? I don't know if you took your headphones with you. And if you really want a shot in the dark, someone who's missed 3 cuts in a row, if you want to be feeling risky and frisky, Justin Rose at 7,200. I'm not going to play him, but I'm just saying, even though he's missed 3 cuts in a row, he kind of lines up well for this course.
I agree.
So,
And Justin Rose is, like I just said, he won this thing a couple of years ago. He won earlier this year at Pebble Beach, which is another course where you have to kind of keep it on the straight and narrow. It's not overwhelmingly long, and they've got tiny, tiny greens. And so premium on that, on those approach accuracies. Sorry about that. Quick off-screen emergency.
no,
I had
you're
to
good.
step aside. We're back in the hunt here talking about the 7K range. So if I repeat anything he just says, just assume that my analysis is smarter.
Of course, right? Yeah.
Emiliano Grillo just doesn't do it for me. He's kind of like a Sam
He
Burns, where
never
I feel like
does.
I
He
feel like
never
I've picked
does.
Sam Burns and I've just missed on the times that he's hit, and it pissed me off, so I've written him off. But in the 7600, Corey Connors is somebody who I like. He's 18th in my model, and what is he known for? He's known for showing up strangely on leaderboards in tournaments where you'd be like, "What the fuck is Corey Connors doing there?" Like majors. But he is one of the best, and I go back to ball strikers. This is a ball strikers kind of, if you're hitting in the fairway, then you can throw darts off of this Georgia grass. And then another guy like
And
close
he's long
by
enough to tee
75,
too.
and he can hit the ball a mile. So I say a mile. He's not like, one of those Rory or John Rahm, the guys who can reach back and get 370, but he can go 300 plus consistently, which is all you kind of need to take these 450, 470 yard par fours and make them manageable with a wedge or a mid iron, which again, a guy like Corey Connors is deadly with. But come on down, Benny on. Runner up at the Wyndham,
I saw him
23rd at the
this
Open,
past week.
3rd at the Scottish Open, 50. I mean, after a couple back-to-back missed cuts, he's been creeping up the leaderboard. And let's see here. Last 10 events, he's gaining 4.5 strokes. Last 5, gaining 6 strokes on the field. So at that price, I didn't even look at what his ownership would be down there at 7,500.
He's
What are we
around
looking
12,
at for Benny on?
13%.
Yeah, so I'm not alone. I mean, he's catching some people's eyes, but probably for the right reasons. Hop on the on train. I love that Denny McCarthy 9% and Sahith Theegala 2.8% ownership at 7,600.
He's had a rough year. He really just hasn't put it together in any tournament this year.
He has, but he's still there at the end. And again, so I mean, I'm talking 12, 13% with Corey Connors and Benny on, but I think that they're both in positions to do it. I think Lucas Glover, stay away. The hangover is real.
Especially for someone who hadn't won in so long like him. So
yeah,
you got to factor that all in.
Clawing that back. We both kind of breezed over. You got anybody else in the 7K range you like? Because there's somebody that didn't come out of either one of our mouths that I'm a little surprised about.
Well, it's not going to be someone that you're surprised I didn't say, but the only other guy that I should say 2 other guys that I'm willing to look at, but I'm not totally in love with would be Keegan Bradley and Sepp Straka. So maybe you feel stronger about one of those 2. But one of the guys that I think is definitely worth mentioning is at 7K exactly, and that's Harris English. I think he's just someone worth looking at. Not someone I'm in love with, but if you find yourself down here and you're needing to fill that gap, someone like Harris English, I'd be all right with.
I didn't see Sepp Straka coming, but Keegan Bradley was literally the one that was on the tip of my tongue. And I think it's because we were just talking about Ryder Cup, couple of wins already, and perhaps that chip on the shoulder, extra motivation to kind of solidify this like, yeah, I belong in the red, white, and blue again. People forget when he came on the scene, we talk about it, his major win was his second win, at all. Yeah. And so he had just kind of got going. He was supposed to be big shit, and then he kind of fell off for a little while there. He went the way of Webb Simpson. But I mean, that's who I kind of would look to. Harris English, not that I don't like the guy. He just feels very, blah to me, but he has played well. Well, U.S. Open.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that Keegan's been doing amazing at this year, his putter's been on fire this year. When he plays, he's been like consistently hitting that 10-foot range. Like those are the putts that are really going to change your tournament, change the flow of what your round is looking like. So, that's something that Keegan's been money at, and that's something you need in these types of situations. So I don't mind the Keegan Bradley play at all.
Neither do I. I actually might give him some love. All right, real quick, 6K. You got anybody? Because if you don't, I do.
Yeah, so the only 2 guys I would like to mention in the 6K range, Eric Cole right at 6,900. He's just been a cut-making machine, a great putter. And for those who care about ownership this week, right around 10-11% ownership, I like Eric Cole, ranks 30th in my model. And the only guy I'm also willing to mention on air is a guy I've been mentioning a decent amount this season, actually, but Adam Schenk down at ranks 12th in my model at 6,400, right around 8% ownership. Adam Schenk finished T64 last week. Missed the cut at the Open, but finished T4 at the John Deere, 7th at the Rocket Mortgage. My only worry about Adam Schenk is that he seems to miss the cut at stronger field events like this. So I'm not 100% confident in playing him. But once again, if you're gonna go ahead and pay for a bunch of guys up at the top, and you find yourself in the 6K range, a guy like Adam Schenk is worth a dart throw. When I think the majority of these 6K guys are probably going to miss the cut this week.
I say go with the hot hand and Lee Hodges 6,500. He did win at the 3M a couple weeks ago. He missed the cut at the Open, but I chalked that up to it being link style.
Sure.
And he had a couple of missed cuts in there as well. But I just think once you find it, and he's going to ride that wave, and he's going to make a cut. And he's also cheap. So recent form coupled with my need to save money means that Lee Hodges is probably going to be worth the 10% ownership that you would have to swallow to get him. But again, looking for somebody who has won recently and might just tap into that magic again. And when he won, don't forget, he didn't just win. He beat the dog piss out of the entire field, 18 and a half strokes gained on the field. It wasn't even in question on Sunday. It was much more about the story than the competition. So Lee Hodges, come on down.
Yep, I don't mind that. Is that your only big guy in the 6K range, or?
Pretty much. I know I'm going to have to go dumpster diving at some point because I don't know how to live on a budget. So I'm going to end up taking too much off the top and have to just, throw some darts in the board. Might take your advice. Doubt I will. Probably going to take my own advice. And then I'll go something like I talked about before, strokes gained home life, scrolling through the 6K range. Who does it just kind of feel like, there's probably Vincent Norman's another name that jumps out because he just got his first win recently. And I think that you are in love with Adam Svensson. So, I'll just mention him.
Yeah, I haven't played him in a while, but he's been playing good again recently. I've noticed him on some leaderboards, so I don't mind.
All right. Well, listen, we got the FedEx Cup playoffs starting. You're going to your expo, the Fantasy Football Expo. I got the Mass Mid-Am qualifier out at Gannon on Thursday, 8:30 tee time. So stick around for, I feel good. I've played this course a few times, just coming off the club championship.
Yes, you are.
And also, I just kind of not that I don't care, but after finally winning a tournament, it's taken a little bit of mental pressure off of feeling like I have something to prove. Where I still have something to prove. I got to get one of these fucking qualifiers under my belt. But it's gonna be a fun week, and we will be back next week with reactions, forecasts, and any other shenanigans that come up. And by the way, I want stories. Don't just come back. Actually, just come back safely. Don't hurt yourself. Don't even try to overdo it.
I can't promise that. There's either going to be a physical injury or a mental injury. We'll see.
So flag football, what are you like? Are you going to be a lineman? Are you going to be a skill position player? Like, do you think you're going to be making deep cuts downfield? Like, what's going on here?
So that's the thing. With my size, I need to be a skill position player. But with my current athletic shape, I should probably just stick to being the water boy. So we'll see.
Can you throw a football?
I can throw a football.
Okay.
I can't last. But I think we already have quarterback locked down. So we'll see. But maybe we'll do a little throwing combine to figure it out. But we'll see. I'm not looking to be quarterback though. It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, fuck that.
Because
I have a hard enough time deciding what to eat, let alone who to throw it to.
When there's like a minuscule chance. So Des Bryant has a flag football team. Yeah, he's showing up to promote one of his new businesses at this expo, and he's got a team entered. When there's a small chance that if at some point we might have to face him, I won't lie. I'm going to, at least for one play, line up against him just so I can say I got barreled over by Des Bryant in a football game. So we'll see. Maybe I'll get lucky
what you wish for. Just don't get hurt.
I won't. All right, well, we'll see. But that is going to do it for us. Bud pretty much nailed the outro. We're going to leave it at that. We will see you next Tuesday, 8 o'clock, as always, here on the Fantasy Sports Corporation on Tea Time Tuesday. We love you all. See you then.